Okay, I'm going to admit a few more people. And Deb, I can turn it over to you and spotlight you, and you can take it from there.
Can everyone hear me?
I can.
Okay. I am absolutely delighted to be here with Robert McMillan, who will be turning 100 in September of this year. Robert was born and raised in Cameron Park and returned to raise his 6 children with his wife, Virginia, in the big stone house that we all love on Hawthorne Street. He did his public schooling in Raleigh, and he graduated from Wake Forest when it was Wake Forest College, when it was still Wake Forest. He served as an officer in World War II. He enlisted in 1942. He was activated in 1943, and he was released to return home in August of 1946. He also served in the Korean War. After he returned from World War II, he entered law school at the University of North Carolina. Initially, after graduating and becoming licensed in 1949, he was an associate in his father's firm, following which he served for several years as a prosecutor of the Raleigh Municipal Court. He said he made $14 a day. He practiced law for 1 year before he was recalled to duty to serve in the Korean War. He was recalled in 1950, and he served from May of 51 until November of 52. Ultimately, he opened his own office for the general practice of law. In his later years, he became primarily a trial lawyer, practicing in the field of criminal defense. Robert believes that we all have rights. That's the main point of the Constitution, that there are rights that are fundamental. Robert also has been involved in the community, serving as a Scoutmaster of Troop 306, president of the Raleigh Rotary Club, and commander of the Raleigh section of the American Legion. He is a lifetime member of Pullen Memorial Baptist Church. Robert went to his law office every day, even after he retired, until the lockdown due to COVID in 2000. He was 96 years old. He lived in his home on Hawthorne Street until he was 96. And in 2019, he moved to his residence to Whitaker Glen, where I'm talking to him now. Robert has 16 grandchildren and 11 great-grandchildren. And with much pleasure, let's start interviewing Robert McMillan. Robert, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for coming.
You were born in Cameron Park.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, I was born in Cameron Park because there were not much other places that I could have been born. The only Rick's Hospital in Raleigh at that time was a little brick building down on South Street that hardly had room for anything. And Mary Elizabeth Hospital was in existence, and Dr. Glasscock had another hospital on P Street. But most people, when I was being born in Raleigh, preferred being born at home. And my next door neighbor was Dr. Kemp Neal, and Dr. Root and Dr. Bug and some of the other doctors assisted in the birthing, as I understand it. I made an appearance, but I had nothing to do with it. And I was born right there in what I call Bruce's room. And Bruce was a college student who fired our furnace. And he got in exchange for firing the furnace a free room. But since my mother was giving birth to me, they had to activate Bruce's room as a maternity ward for a while.
Tell us about your family.
Well, my family was a precious family. I am a very fortunate person. My mother and father were fine, fine people. My father was probably the best student at Wake Forest College when he attended college there. And over a period of 8 or 9 years, he farmed and taught school and attended Columbia University Law School, finally getting a graduate degree from University of Columbia in law in 1917, and then he went joined the Army and served in World War I. My mother my mother's mother had 3 daughters, and my mother was the oldest one. My mother's father died when my mother was 7 years old, and he had a ruptured appendix and died. And how her mother raised her, I do not know. But she went to Winthrop for a year and came to Raleigh for a year and taught at Harvard Business School. No, and one of the business colleges, and Mr. Layfield's business college. And for 2 years, and then she went to New York to seek her fortune. And I'm that glad she did, because that's where she met my father. They were born about 15 miles apart, she in South Carolina, he in North Carolina, but they met in New York. And one interesting factor, she really met the high and the mighty in New York, because she had the good fortune of being in class herself at Columbia, and Madame Ignace Paderewski, wife of the great Polish pianist, asked the Columbia people to recommend a young woman to be secretary to Mrs. Paderewski. And the Columbia people recommended my mother. And so she served all during World War I as secretary to Madame Paderewski, and her Paderewski, the pianist, was president of the Polish government in exile. Remember, there was no Poland. Half of the Polish people were in Germany, half in Russia. But not until the peace treaty was Polish established as a nation. But Paderewski, nonetheless, was leading the Polish government in exile during World War I. And my mother was living with the Paderewskis. And my mother and father happened to meet in New York, and they got married and settled in Raleigh. But they were good, solid country people who got the great benefits of culture from in Wake Forest. My mother said the day she was employed by Madame Paderewski, she actually lived with them. And for the first night, she went to a banquet, and she was sitting next to got your right here. She was sitting next to the great steel magnate who helped libraries all over the country. What's that?
Andrew Carnegie.
Who?
Andrew Carnegie.
Andrew, if you're sitting next to Andrew Carnegie on one side, and one of the great musicians on the other side, and she had the opportunity of associating with people like that all through the war. But at any rate, they got married and moved back to Raleigh, and my brother Arthur was born January the 1st, 1920, and I was born September the 3rd, 1923. But I could go on and on about my parents. I was very fortunate. I never heard an obscene or crude word from either one of them. I never heard a grammatical error from either one of them. They were just cultured people, and how they survived me, I don't know, but they did. But I worship them.
I hear your mom was called the Pied Piper.
Well, that was for the grandchildren. She, all of my children, my brother Archie's children, and all their peers in Cameron Park would come to my mother's porch. And when the circuses would come to town, my mother would have the midgets come and perform for all the neighborhood children. And they just flocked there. Mary could tell more about that than I could, but she loved children and children loved her. But she loved people and people loved her. She loved all people. So many of her friends were people from Oberlin, and that we were taught to have high respect for Oberlin people, just like we had high respect for Cameron Park people.
What are some of your first memories of Cameron Park?
Well, I won't say first memories, early memories. Cameron Park needs to know the history of the fire station. The great role that the fire station number 5 played in the development of children in Cameron Park of my era. Captain Jack Keeler, Captain E.G. McGee, Jan Burnett, John Grimes, Zeke Lloyd, and John Ledbetter. They were firemen there. They were friends for the rest of my life. I never heard a crude word from any of those firemen. The children were welcome there, played horseshoes, rode the poles up and down. Of course, that wouldn't be allowed today because of injury, possibility of lawsuits. But those firemen were my friends, the people in the neighborhood. I have said that Cameron Park at that time was divided into 3 portions. All Gaul is divided into 3 parts, and Cameron Park was divided into 3 parts. Western Cameron Park was from Woodward Road to Oberlin. Central Cameron Park was from Hawthorne Road down to
St. Mary's?
what?
St. Mary's?
No, not St. The park to St. Mary's was the 3rd part. It was from Forest Road on down to the park, was the middle part. And in my part, the upper part, was the college community. The head of the ROTC at State was the corner house where Jerry London now lives. The Russell House was across the street. He was head of animal husbandry at State. Next to him was Dr. Winters. He was head of agronomy at State, and he took neighborhood children all over the State College farms on Sunday afternoon walks. Then there were where the Munger House, they call it now, it was the Busby House. 4 ladies, Lula Busby had a kindergarten, Isabel Busby had a landscape design. So 5 Busby was the secretary for the State Utilities Commission, and Sophie Busby worked for the NC State. Then Leon Williams, who I hate to take so much time on these issues,
No,
but
please do.
Leon Williams needs to be remembered. Leon was a proud ROTC graduate of State. His father taught chemistry 2 doors up from me. And Leon got a commission. He went to Clark Field in the Philippines. And you know, the day after Pearl Harbor was attacked, Clark Field was attacked. Leon was captured and survived the Bataan Death March. he was killed by American bombers when they bombed a Japanese prison ship, thinking it was a troop ship, but Leon was a prisoner being transferred from one island to the other in the Solomons, and he was killed then. And then 2 rows below him, but across the street from him was Dr. Randolph, taught chemistry, and across the street was Captain Matthews, who was a Union Depot master, superintendent. And Mr. Carlton, Raleigh's first millionaire, we heard, lived in that next house, just east of Jerry Leonard's house. And the word came out, Mr. Carlton had inherited $1 million from his brother, which was true. And that was probably more than anybody else in Raleigh had ever dreamed of. And he developed Carolina Pines with it, but shortly after that, the Depression hit and he lost it. But at any rate, the next house, Mr. Herman Sonner worked at Briggs Hardware. His wife was superintendent, was principal at Boylan Heights School. And across the street was Dr. Kemp Neal. And then next to Dr. Shuck taught biology or botany. And then Dr. Wilson next to us taught chemistry. And the Raglins were there where you are now, I think. And that was sort of western Cameron Park. From there down to that next street I can't think of.
Forest.
Not Forest, it's Truman Forest. There was a mixture of professional people. Governor Bolton lived there. He moved later, became governor of the state. His brother was a dentist, and Dr. Ivan Proctor was there, and Dr. Paul Neal was there, and Mr. White of White's Ice Cream was there, and Fallon, the Fallon Florist Company was there, and Edwin Ragland of Superior Stone was there, and believe it or not, A.E. Finley had an upstairs apartment when he first came to Raleigh, before he got so rich. But everything happened in Cameron Park, and then down in the park, everything happened. Now I want to, if we've got time, now I've got all the time.
We have time.
If you all have time, I want to name my friends who got killed.
Please do.
And when I say my friends, Cameron Park, I have to include Wise School in this phase of it. But anyway, down where the parks are, business people were dominant. Carl Hudson, Hudson Belt, Ralph Reed Sr., Robertson Chemical Company, fertilizer, cotton gin, other things like that. Down the street, Dale Starbuck, Knee-High Bottling Company. Across the park was Mr. Holden, who headed the Waterworks, and Mr. White, the O.B. White Company. So a lot of business people were there, not too many college people. But now, I have counted about inside of Cameron Park, we had Billy Walton was horribly wounded or torn up in a glider crash. His next, the two Lamb boys, Mickey Lamb and Billy Lamb and Jimmy Lamb, Mickey Lamb, but served in the service. The next boy died, I've forgotten his name. Davison was his name. Something like Lamar Davison, I've forgotten. He got killed in the war. The Beckwith boys up the road on Calvin Road, they served, they survived. Next door to, on West Park, on East Park Drive, Abel Hilker got killed. his father and Hilker Brothers Dry Cleaning Company. And across the park, Lawrence Holden got killed. And his father ran the waterworks. But also there was Dr. Mitchell, he had 2 boys in service. And Mrs. Jocelyn had 4 children in service. Hinkey got wounded on Iwo Jima. William served in the Navy. Devereaux served in the Army. And Nell married Dr. Styron, who served on Saipan. And the Walker House at the corner of West Park Drive and Park Drive had 6 children. Cornelia was in my class, a redheaded girl. I was redheaded. I always liked redheaded people, of course. I was redheaded. And Cornelia was redheaded. She joined the Red Cross. She had 5 brothers. 1 joined the Navy, 4 joined the Marines. Across the park, Bobby Finch served. But John Hilton died. He lived there next to Miss Huntley's house, where Roy Huntley now lives. John Hilton got killed. Leon Williams got killed. Across St. Mary Street, Laverne Jeffries got killed. Around the corner, Eric Briggs and Carl McLean got killed. They lived up on Hillgrove Street. John Perry on Snow Avenue got killed. Tommy Royster got killed. Jake McLean on Cox Avenue down the hill from Pullen Church got killed. I believe that's all. But they were all dear friends, precious friends. And my dear, I pucker up when I think about Virginia. What a wife she was, Lord knows. She was a beautiful woman, smart woman. And I told her that I felt an obligation to have children because I'd lost so many friends who could never have children. I mean, two I failed to miss. Jack Lancaster, a dear friend, and Bobby Crocker, a dear friend, John Wolfe, a dear friend, all from right there around Wilder School. And it sounds arrogant maybe, but call it what you please. I wanted a big family because I knew that I've got good genes. Not, I don't deserve credit for it, but I've got good genes. And I had good genes, and my wife had good genes, and she agreed. We go to duty to try to spread good genes because so many were destroyed. But anyway, we're talking about playing. Fun. Jack Keeler later became chief of the fire department. I was a brand new lawyer, and we've got this great service, county service for sending ambulances out to everywhere. It didn't exist then. The only ambulance service was funeral home service. But Jack Keeler and I started the Raleigh Rescue Squad when he was fire chief. And I had become acquainted with him when I was a child playing fire station number 5. And when he was fire chief, he came to see me after I was a young lawyer, said, I want to start this group to rescue people. And it was called the Raleigh Rescue Squad. And now it's a big part of local government. But at any rate, the recreation was Cameron Woods. Cameron Woods extended from Park Drive to Williamson Drive. There was no Wade Avenue. Barton School encroached, and Clark Avenue ran up to the dead end at the edge of the woods. But from there to over the roads was woods. Beneath where the library now stands, there was some reason there was a bare spot about twice as big as this room. And we called it the White Grounds, and we played ball down there. And also we got rabbit tobacco there, smoked rabbit tobacco. I reckon we would have smoked marijuana if we knew about it, but nobody ever heard of marijuana. But they did hear they did smoke rabbit tobacco and corn syrup, and you're hard up for a smoke to smoke either one of them, but anyway, everyone did it. Shooting marbles was good. I never was good at it. But I love playing sport, playing ball. And I love people. I've always loved people. I'm a very outgoing person. And I like people today, and I like people. And I put a plug in for Whitaker Glen. They got a lot of fancy places going up all around. Nothing fancy as Whitaker Glen, but they got the nicest people working here you can imagine. Just, I've never seen a one of these people act in an impatient manner towards some of the other people. Some of the people out here are pretty demanding. And it's not their fault, they're old. And they need help. And the help that's provided for these people is just beyond imagination. They laugh and they smile and have a good time. And but at any rate.
Yeah, you talk about the gypsies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, the
tell us
gypsies.
about what was where Cameron Village was?
The Cameron Wood.
Yeah.
The woods
It was all
extended.
woods.
The woods extended from Park Drive to Williamson Drive.
Okay.
And where the Harris Teeter parking lot is now was a rare spot. I'll ask you all, have you got any music training? Have you ever heard the operetta, The Bohemian Girl? I dreamt that I dwelt in marble halls with vassals and serfs at my side. I used to play it on the piano. I got fascinated by that operetta because the gypsies camped every year in what is now the Harris Teeter parking lot. And the black children in Overland, the white children in Cameron Park, don't go near the gypsies. You'll be captured. Don't go near the gypsies. And that's the story of the Bohemian Girl. Do you remember that story? The Bohemian Girl is a gypsy. And she dreams of having been an elegant girl in a fine home, but she was captured by the gypsies. But at Cameron Village, they came every year for at least 10 years. And they quit. Now, after I got a law license, I had an office in an old building called the Academy Building. It stood on the corner of Salisbury and Martin Street, right behind the post office. It was torn down and the first Solar Saving Loan was built there. But the Academy Building had been the old Academy of Music, and it was converted into offices. But every year when the gypsies would come to town, even after they were camping at Overland Road, they would come to town when the fair hit town. And they would come to town in sort of droves and flam black people usually. And they would get arrested. And it was accepted practice. The gypsies could employ a lawyer, give the lawyer money, lawyer could go to court, the gypsy could leave, but he had to leave enough money to pay the court costs and restitution to the flammy. And I got all kind of gypsy practice for years, as long as the academy building stood, but I never got a single gypsy after that building was destroyed. So I say that building was marked, and the gypsies who came to town knew where to go. Like in Egypt, the angel passed over certain houses. Same idea. But at any rate, I would pick up $300 or $400 every fall when the gypsies would come to the fairground and flam people, and they give me money to go and pay the court costs, make restitution, and I could keep the balance. And so that's the story of the gypsies. Now, and I got the business when I left there and they tore down that building and I put my office in another place. I never got another dip. But anyway, that's unique about Cameron Park and the gypsies. But maybe I've sparked some interest of one question you might have. By the way, the present old Rex Hospital should stand today. I think it's the Public Security Commission, right there off of St. Mary Street, this side of Williamson Drive. But that was put there in 1937. I remember that date because my brother had the first appendectomy at that new hospital, and it was 1937. Now, made you think of anything else?
I think you ought to speak to some of those white figure.
Well,
Talk to some of those questions that they asked you at the Wiley interview. I think it's interesting talking about Wiley School.
oh yeah,
And
oh yeah, oh, let me tell you. What a precious school Wiley was. My memories of Wiley School,
When was that built?
I think about 1919. There used to be a big old wood building on Morgan Street. When I came along, it was called the Wiley Hotel. And it was torn down, and the Coca-Cola bottling plant went there, but later Coca-Cola bottling plant went way out. But at any rate, Hotel Wiley was the same building that had been Wiley School. It was wood structure. But then the Wiley School, when I went there, my first recollection, I went there with Miss Grace Bates, and I had wonderful teachers. Miss Sherwood and Miss Bates were sisters. Miss Sherwood was principal, and Miss Bates was my first grade teacher. And then Miss Reeves and Miss Ray and Miss Reese and Miss Howell. I liked her a lot, and Mrs. Noble, I liked her a lot. And now this is interesting, I think. And I really liked them. They were good teachers. They spent time and they cared for some people. And a lot of the children then didn't have any money. And Miss Daisy Green ran the restaurant part of the cafeteria. And some of the churches, the American Needs Auxiliary, the PTA, organization like that would chip in money. And Mr. Daisy Green would give every child in school a good mug of good vegetable soup for a nickel. Believe it or not, a lot of the children didn't have nickels. But those organizations that I mentioned provided nickels for everybody. Nobody in Wiley School failed to get a good bowl of soup at lunch. Now, I went home one time with two boys, brothers, from a poor part of town, not Cameron Park, east of Cameron Park. We had children coming around who were really poor. Now, in today's terms, my family was poor. My father, most of the people in Cameron Park, about half of them were connected with NC State or the state and had salaries. My father had no salary. Now, he did represent Mr. Carlton, the millionaire, but for Mr. Carlton lost everything he had, my father had no fat client. But at any rate, my father picked up work and did the best he could, but he had a hard time. But I'll tell you this story about my mother. And I could jump back and forth, but this needs to be told. Now, during the 1920s, my father was riding high. He was a close friend to Governor Cam Morrison. He was a close friend to Governor Angus McLean. Well, they were from 1920 to 1928. He had no pull with Area House, but by the end of Area House time, the Depression hit. And the college professors got cuts in their pay, but they got paid. And the state employees say, wait, well, my father had no pay except what he could pick up. And people he represented in court couldn't pay much. But anyhow, my mother, among other things she did in New York, before I worked for the Big Fat Arrested, she wrote a home economics column for the American Weekly magazine of the Hearst papers. All the Hearst papers in all of America had an insert, and hers was a domestic relations insert. She had a whole sheet. Every week, she had a week's time, every Saturday or Sunday, whenever the paper came out. Mary Swan was her pen name. And she had a menu for the whole week. And she introduced Raleigh all sorts of food that Raleigh never heard of.
Broccoli.
Broccoli, alligator pears, which is avocado. And anyway, she got paid $26 a week. And she typed from a little typewriter. And she never made a error, never misspelled a word. She and my father both knew English literature, knew the Bible, knew everything. But 10 years in New York would give good education. She stayed there about 6 years and she got her education. Knock around New York, you'll get educated. I'll tell you something about that before I finish. But at any rate, I don't know what got me off on this subject. Oh yeah, my mother. We ate well. And she was clever. She was not a good business person, but she was clever in this regard. She got paid $26 a week. Every week, Hearst papers would send her a check, $26. She would also test recipes. She'd go to the grocery store and test all kinds of recipes, buying all kinds of exotic food. She would not only send her bill for $26 a week services, she would send a bill for $85 a week for food expenditures. You follow her, so she was not done. We ate well, but I had another. But I want to tell that about her writing. She got paid $26 a week, and that sounds like not much. But sometimes about all my parents had, but I never lacked for anything. They may do somehow or another. But now, to tell you about how tough it was, my father's father had been a wealthy man. He had inherited a lot of money from a brother in Savannah who was in the naval stores business, turpentine and tar and all this stuff. And he died and left my grandfather a lot of money. My grandfather bought about 1,000 acres of land in Hope County, about 5 miles from their home farm. And he farmed it out. Well, during the Depression, and he gave each child a farm. And he gave a black man a farm. That family had raised a black man whose parents had been slaves, but they died when he was a child. And my grandfather raised this boy, this black youth, and educated him, taught him how to read and write. There were no schools. My grandfather taught all of his own children, and they all were well educated. My father was voted an outstanding student at Wake Forest in his class, and never went to a public school in his life. He studied from his father. But his father had gone to Wake Forest before the war. And anyway, but during the Depression, they couldn't pay the land taxes. They lost all that land. All that land that was given to them to gone with the wind. But he never complained, he just kept plugging along. But I remember when I was off in service, the first money I ever had, I still sell cold drinks and magazines. I never made any money. But the first money I ever had was $35 a month Marine Corps pay. And I didn't smoke and I didn't drink. And so I had $35. I bought a war bond for $18. I put $10 in the Walk Over Bank. So I had $15 thereabout cash money. And by the time I had been in the Marine 6 months, I probably had $100. And I never dreamed of having $100, but I've had money ever since. I learned how to, I raised a whole lot of children, a lot of little money sometimes, but I made some money too, but I learned to appreciate money. I never cheated anybody. I got a good client one time. I did some business for him, and I wrote him a letter and I sent him a check for $1.86, which was his money. And left over what was done. He came and she said, well, since you looked at my $1.86, I'm going to keep you as my lawyer. Which is no big deal. Of course, business is business. Even on $1 billion transaction, if it's $3 due to another man, you give the man $3. But
Yeah, speak to what you were talking about how when you were in the neighborhood, there was one big family.
Miss Carlton. Oh yeah, I want to get back to school a minute. And then I'll get in the neighborhood. Miss Noble, I just love Miss Noble. And Miss Carson. So I was an arrogant little bastard. I was sweet and teacher's pet usually. I like Jim Hunt. Jim Hunt ran for governor 4 times. I was class president. And then every year I was class president. Anyway, the last year, 6th grade, Miss Carson, the fall semester. The fall semester, right now, I was president, and I came back. I said, well, we're going to have elections, and I'll be president again. And Jimmy, you'll be vice president, Sally, you'll be secretary. Something like that. Anyway, Miss Carson called me in. And she called me brother. Everybody called me brother. I said, brother, something seems to be wrong with you. What's wrong with you? You don't seem to be happy. If you're different. And I was, I think, and I thinking back, I was probably entering into puberty. She didn't recognize it, I didn't know what puberty was. But looking back, I probably was. But she didn't have enough wisdom to realize it. But getting back to family. And this is so funny. Snobism raises its ugly head at an early age as proof of the fact that I want to be present every time. But also, Miss Carlton was a sweet, sweet lady. Even after her husband lost all his money, my father, bless his heart, was able to get Mr. Carlton's insurance company to pay the Carltons $1,000 a month forever, which was a lot of money for those days. The man who lost $1 billion. So they were not destitute. Miss Carlton had parties for the neighborhood children, and the children were snobs. They loved going to Miss Carlton's house because she served Canada dry ginger ale that cost 50 cents a bottle rather than party pack ginger ale. It cost only 10 cents a bottle. But anyway, she was so sweet. Incidentally, she had a cook who had a son, and I arrested that son for murder many years later, and I won the case. But anyhow, Miss Carlson was so sweet, entertaining all the children all the time, and all the mothers were sweet to let the children run in and out and play. It was one big happy family. Really.
I hear there was a water tower by Wiley. Did you
Yeah.
ever climb that?
Not me. I wasn't brave enough. I was arrogant. I wasn't brave. Some of the boys did.
How about the Forest Park cable? Was there a cable sprung?
Yeah. That came up later.
Yeah. Did you earn money when you were growing up?
No, not much. So-called director, property who building buildings. The way you make money selling cold drinks, when you turn your bottles into Coca-Cola company. I don't know. You got to make sure the bottles don't lose your bottles.
Mhm.
You get some money for the bottles. And you could make 40 cents a case, I believe. And I made a little money that way, but not much.
Mhm.
And I'd run errands for neighbors like Miss Carlton, and they'd pay me a little something. I'll tell you, my first love affair was Carrie Carlton, who died about 4 years ago in California. And she had come to several Carroll Park reunions. We had a lot of Carroll Park reunions in my yard. And but she had her husband going all over the world. He worked at the State Department. So she had several reunions. And she was a pretty little redheaded girl that I was in love with. And I wrote a letter on a Tuesday. I wrote the letter and addressed to the most beautiful girl in the world and gave the address. Didn't give the name. Her daughter called me, so pleased. She said, Robert, Mother got that letter on Tuesday and she died on Thursday. But she loved it. She had her wits about it. She just laughed and laughed and laughed. I didn't, and I addressed to the most beautiful girl in the world, such and such address, California. And she got it on Tuesday. She read it, cautious of it, enjoyed it, laughed about it, died on Thursday. She was my favorite, but Miss Gina was a favorite. And Miss Mishner, I just love Miss Mishner.
Who was she?
J.S. Mishner. She had 2 sons, both of them were doctors. And in 1939, Miss Mishner took her 2 boys to the World's Fair where you had Holland and we went to that fair too.
Where was it?
New York. And anyway, Calvin had 6 little bantam roosters, bantam chickens, his pets. Calvin became a doctor in Charlotte. At any rate, they went through all this displays. I heard about this later. They went through all these displays. They did this and they did that and did other things. And the Ralston Purina Company, like a lot of companies, had been exhibits at this World's Fair. And Ralston Purina is in St. Louis, Missouri. And they had displays there for poker people. And Calvin Mitchell was about 12 or 13, or maybe 15. And he signed a piece of paper that he was interested in chickens. And it is such and such an address, Westport Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina. And Mrs. Mitchell said about 6 weeks after they had been to that fair, Calvin was off in school, Wiley School, Lord School, and a man from St. Louis was there from the Ralston Purina Company, a very formal, dignified man, and Miss Mitchell was deaf and hard of hearing, but a smart woman. And the man said, "We would like to see Mr. Calvin Mitchell." She said, "Calvin's at school right now." I reckon I thought he was teaching poetry at State College. And anyway, Calvin somehow or another had put information on that form at the World's Fair about his chickens. And maybe he paid it a little. They sent a man all the way from St. Louis to see Mr. Missioner, the poultry factory. But anyway,
How old was he?
he was about 13, 12, I don't know.
When did
Had
they
six-
find out he wasn't a mister?
I don't know. But by the way, speaking of friends, I don't know whether May knows this or not. Virginia, let me tell you what I came home from service and I wanted a girl, and I was in love with a girl. And doggone it, she was in the tobacco market with her family. And I was in law school looking for a girl. And I've dated a girl, a pretty girl, but Lord, she was country. All my life it was there, and I couldn't handle that. I did date her one night, and I'm still looking for a girl. And Fanny River Mitchell, who just left here, just turned 99. And I was hitchhiking to Raleigh, and she tried to pick me up, and there was a good-looking blonde sitting in the front seat with her hair in curls and a bandana around the head. And Lord, she was cold. My friend and I sat on the back, having a conversation. I looked at that girl. And anyway, found her let her out. And that's the girl that turned to be my wife. And I saw her when she came back. She spent the weekend with Fanny Remy. And she didn't like me a bit. And as cold as could be. And of course, I was in love with this other girl. But she wasn't here, so when I'm near the girl I love the girl I'm near. And anyway, I said, I want you to go with me to the dance. I want you to go to the dance. She said, well, I can't go to the dance. I'm a hall monitor, and I got to let the girls come in. And at 11 o'clock, I said, well, get somebody else. She said, she thought I meant get me a date. I said, no, I don't want a date. I want you. You get somebody else to check the rolls. And anyway, I had a hard time bringing her around but she was really a beauty.
Hmm.
And
Your wife, Virginia.
oh Lord, yeah.
Hmm.
And she was gratitude social work, and she doing field work at Duke Hospital.
Hmm.
And these hotshot Duke doctors were hovering around around the beehive.
Hmm.
And they'd bring her home from a date. I'd be sitting in there with a half mother. And anyway,
What made her say yes?
I don't know. The half mother was my friend. But I took her to Virginia to several dances. Chapel Hill was really a wonderful place at that time. Boys were home from service, dances, free of charge, and good bands.
Hmm.
And they weren't fraternity dances, they were school dances. And she's trying to find her. And I'd go every night, see her in. I would never complain about seeing other boys. And the long father, something was her name. She said, Virginia, you better get her. She's the best one. And she did, but I'll give you some background on her. How smart she was. Her dad worked for the Coca-Cola Company. And on the day after Pearl Harbor, December the 8th, 1941, they left her, she was 16. She had just turned 16. They left her in charge with her two younger brothers, and they took off for Costa Rica. But they'd arranged with the banker there to let her attend to things. And she looked after those two boys, her mom and daddy in Costa Rica, 50,000 miles away. They caught a train to Brownsville, Texas, and hop, skip, and jump to Costa Rica. Then finally she had to drop out of Meredith and went down there and lived a year and a half. And she set those dark, sharp Latino boys wild. They were all after her. But I got her. And she had a hard time with me. I was so hard-headed. She told me, now, Robert, in Costa Rica. But of course, then I met her. She had just come back to Chapel Hill after finishing Meredith. She stayed down there a year and a half. But she went to a convent school run by Belgian nuns, and she studied in French. So she came back and finished Meredith, still about a year ahead of her class, because she entered Meredith at age 15. And anyway, and that's when I started courting her. And it took me a long time to hook her, but I hooked her. And her mother was so happy.
Hmm.
Her mother was glad I got her because she had a lot of those Latino boys liked her. She had one a heavy steady. Her two brothers didn't like him either. And but anyway, he came to our wedding, and you could see him glowering over taking his girlfriend. But
He got a,
I don't care where he got over that. I got her, to hell with him. Anyway,
What made you move back to Cameron Park?
that house,
Yeah,
we wanted a big family, and we were well on the way to a big family.
was the house
She
already
was,
big by
she
then?
was number 4 on Bedford Avenue.
May McMillan.
Yeah, and we moved right back. The house came on the market, and that was when Cameron Park was at its lowest ebb.
Hmm.
Most of them old people had died. The churches moved in, board houses had moved in, and this house had stayed empty for a long time.
Really?
And I tell you the facts. From what I heard, I don't know. I heard the house cost $84,000 in 1924. And that was some kind of house.
Mhm.
I bought it in 1960 for $34,000. And I didn't put up a penny. I assumed a $24,000 mortgage, and I gave a $10,000 purchase money mortgage. And so, but you could buy houses all over Cameron Park for nothing, but I wanted that house, and I paid it off. I never fell behind with payments, and but it's been a wonderful house.
Has a wonderful yard.
Yeah,
Did your kids?
and we've had so many parties there,
Mm.
and I want to put this in. I started an organization called the Wake County Academy of Criminal Defense Attorneys, with the view towards getting of good trial lawyers, and we had good ones. And I rooted a lot of young good lawyers: Roger Wade Smith, Chuck Green, and Carl Churchill, Mike Dodd, Robert Howard, Fred Warlock, a lot of others. But I don't know where I was going with this.
You started the Wake County.
Academy of Criminal Trial Lawyers. Oh, yeah. And that house was just ideal for the parties. And we had a lot of parties for old Cameron Park, pre-World War II Cameron Park.
Mm.
They loved coming. And we had bar associations. They loved coming. Boy Scout families, they loved coming. And the bars, the highest compliment ever paid me and my father, Dan Green, George Green and Dan Blue. Dan Blue, the black Speaker of the House, and George Green was a black judge. They came one day to the had a lawyers meeting there, a picnic. And I was standing there talking to Russ and Beta, Carl Churchill and their wives. And Dan Drew approaches, and Dan says, in the paper, said, Mr. Mack, when I first came to Raleigh, I went to see Mr. Fred Cartage. Fred Cartage was the preeminent African-American lawyer in Raleigh at that time. And he was highly regarded by everybody, white and black. I said, I went to see Mr. Fred Cartage, asked for advice. Dan had graduated from Duke Law School, and Dan Blue is a first-class man, really, high-class man. And I talked to Mr. Blue, and I met Mr. Cartage, and Mr. Cartage said, well, Dan, there are two white lawyers in Raleigh. You can always depend upon that they will do the right thing. And they are R.L. McMillan and R.L. McMillan Jr.
Mm.
George Green said, Mr. Mack, when I came to Raleigh, Mr. Carter told me the same thing.
Wow.
So I say, they're the two highest compliments I've got.
Mm. High compliments from a very good person.
Well, I talked about,
Hey, Debbie,
Yeah.
could you get Robert to tell us about his pet goat?
Yes,
oh,
tell us about
yeah.
your pet goat.
Oh, who is that? Who?
That was Chuck.
Oh, it's
Cole.
Chuck Cordy.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'm reading, that's
Yeah.
a question from the chat list.
Well, I wanted to go. Billy Boylan lived up there in a big halfway boiling apartments now. just east of the Cavern Court Apartments, where the Cavern Ransom was. Billy Boylan had a goat, had a cart. But Billy Boylan did on Boylan and Pierce and a lot of other things, and he could afford a goat cart.
What kind of car?
A goat cart,
Oh,
cart, a Billy goat cart. I got a picture, goes in the office outside of little girls in a goat cart.
mm-hmm,
And then back at Sears River catalogs, you always had goat carts for sale.
mm-hmm.
I never got one, but I always wanted one. But at any rate, we were driving east on Johnson Street over there where Smoky Hollow was. Smoky Hollow was under the railroad roundhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when the next boat came, that's why they called it Smoky Hollow. Well, we saw a goat under a house up on big pylons. And my daddy said, my daddy knew I wanted a goat. And he said, how would you like that goat? I said, I love it. And went there and talked to the guy who owned the goat. My dad gave him $4 for the goat. It had great big horns and he smelled terrible, but I loved him. And
What did you call him?
what?
Did you call him a name?
Billy. Just called him Billy. And what's that?
That's you and Billy.
Here's a picture of Billy
Y'all can have that.
and Robert.
Can they have that? Okay, but anyway, so Freddie's son played with me. Most of my others friends drifted away. Dr. Harrison, who was 2 doors from me, next door to Woodland Road, he said, we got to get rid of that baby, that goat. Dr. Harrison taught English at the state. And he was the first jogger I ever heard of. He used to jog through the Cavern Woods. And one time, he brought the goat back. The goat had gotten free and had gone loose in the woods. And Dr. Harrison brought the goat back. But anyway, all the mothers want me to get rid of the goat. But I wanted to keep the goat. And I would take the goat walking to College Court Pharmacy, where that eating place now is.
PR,
Yeah. What's the name of it?
the players are great.
Players Retreat was the drugstore. The college boys would be sitting on a railing, beautiful and haircut down there below, and a railing up here. College boys sitting on rolling, smoking cigarettes and feeding cigarettes to the goat. And the goat would eat them and then get them plants and blah. He got his charge out of the cigarette without smoking the cigarette. He got the full benefit of the nicotine without getting cancer. Anyhow, on my way one time, Miss Porter, Jimmy Porter's mother, Jimmy Porter was a prominent lawyer whose father died in the flu epidemic. And Miss Porter raised those 3 children by herself, and one of the children married Willie York. Mayor Porter married Willie York. And George Porter died, but Mr. Porter died from the flu epidemic. But I would go by Miss Porter's house, and she had a barking dog. And that dog was yapping at me and the goat. I was carrying the goat on a chain over to the drugstore, let him have some cigarettes. And anyway, one day, that dog got too close to that goat. That goat had big ears, horns. That goat did like that. Look at that dog skied out of there away from that goat. And every time thereafter, when I spoke to Porter House, that dog left. And anyhow,
You gotta tell me about this Raglan.
oh yeah, Miss Raglan,
This Raglan lived in the house, catty corner from you, where the city of Orland and the pharmacist lived in. Yeah.
Oh, the girl.
Yeah, yeah, the girls.
but anyway, Miss Raglan I had three runners right and I had Billy was a playmate. We used to smoke cigar butts together. And I'm gonna tell them about Patrick too. Anyway,
How are you doing? Are you worn
oh,
out yet?
Lord, no,
All right,
I,
let's keep going.
I'm trouble, I love talking. Bring back memories, good memories. I don't have any bad memories. What's on the side?
Another question for Robert is, how has Cameron Park changed over the years? Has it changed much?
He's got one more story to tell before he gets there.
We'll get there.
Okay,
But
okay.
Miss Ragland told me, brother, you gotta get rid of that goat. Every time Betty plays with you, he comes home smelling like goat, our house smells like goat, everything we eat tastes like goat. If I don't if you don't get rid of that goat, I'm gonna have to send Betty off to military school. Well, anyway, the neighbors persuaded my mother to get rid of the goat. So we got Sam from Oak Nazareth. There was an African American community around the Catholic church over there, Nazareth neighborhood. And Sam lived over there, but Sam was a janitor at the drugstore. And Sam Pope, by the way, the Popes were high class. They just served the higher class people. But Sam did really take the goat. And he took the goat, and I never saw the goat since. But anyway, everybody was happy. But Miss Ragland sent Billy off to prep school anyway. But let me tell you about the Ragland and Pappy. The Raglands, Billy and Trent, Archie and my brother Archie and Trent were great friends, and Billy and I were great friends. And the Raglands moved to Raleigh from Birmingham, I believe. And no, they moved from Birmingham to Salisbury, and then from Salisbury to Raleigh. But anyway, in Birmingham, they had an old black man named Pappy. When they left Alabama, they left Pappy. They went to Salisbury, lived in Salisbury several years, and then moved to Raleigh, and had been in Raleigh several years, and hadn't seen or heard from Pappy in about 12 years. Well, the Raglands were eating Sunday night supper at a little kitchenette. Next was the kitchen, next was the back door. And somebody knocked on the door one Sunday night. And Mr. Ragland opened the door, and Pappy said, and I quote, "Boss, I was home." And they gave Pappy a home. Pappy had a room in that house. Every time I walked by that house, I could look at this little window there. That was Pappy's room. And Pappy had no function on earth except to look after the children in the neighborhood. He never said anything, but he always hovered.
So the question that was coming over earlier today was how has the neighborhood changed? What I think that was
What have been some of the biggest changes in Cameron Park over your lifetime?
Well, over the time since Virginia, I moved there, it was really at a very low ebb. Highs were pretty well run down, but Virginia and several other people formed a corporation and started buying houses, putting restrictive covenants on them, selling them. But Cameron Park, over a period of time, there's been osmosis, it's come back to its former glory. The way I look at it, but it was a slow process, and but every other house was either a trailer house or a board house, or old widow lived there all alone, and it was pretty dull. But we livened it up, and of course you saw that to me. Those houses across the street, 2 or 3 families living in some of those houses, and but it's just Cameron Park today is like Cameron Park was before the Depression.
Mhm. Mhm. I would like to know how the alleyways were used.
Well, they were used for, well, as alleyways.
To deliver?
Yeah, delivering coal. Everybody heated by coal. And finally, in the mid-30s, people started heating by oil. But the garbage trucks used the alleys, the coal trucks used the alleys, the ice wagons used the streets. I don't know why the difference. But they were still using horse-drawn ice carts. I don't know why. Hot pie steak. But
What about milk delivery?
but
Milk
oh yeah.
and laundry? Were there laundry services?
No, most of the people in Cameron Park had laundresses in Oberlin.
Okay.
And Maddie, who looked after me when May was a little girl, was the last person I knew who could balance clothes on a basket on her head. She would walk all over Cameron Village with me, with laundry on top of her head, and make her change around going to Maddie's house. But when I was a child, Cameron Park was a very nice neighborhood. When we moved back into Cameron Park, it was pretty well worn out. But within a few years, it really started booking up. Now, what was the name of the doctor where you used to live, Dave? Dr. Costa lived down on the corner, and Mr. Park and Miss Smith lived there, next to us and Mr. Balkan. But across from us, several families lived in some of those houses. And they were sort of moving along one, but by osmosis, Cameron Park has come back.
Some
Cameron
of the
Park,
houses have been divided and have become really old.
Okay.
We were there.
Yeah, we've seen that change over the time we've been here.
but it's come back. And Cameron Park was very nice when I was growing up. It was full, but everybody was full.
Mhm. How did you get around? Did you use the trolley
Yeah,
or a bus?
I remember riding a trolley and the bus. Once in a while, my mother would take me to some music lessons over on Drone Street in a taxi. And I took cello lessons at Meredith sometime, and I ride the bus. But now there was a time my father did not have a car, but during the good years, we had a 7-passenger Hudson, drum seats and all. And also we had a Marlin. Nobody's ever heard of Marlins now, but they were fine cars. But there was a time where we had no car. But then my father bought a 1933 Plymouth. And that lasted us about a good many years. And then he bought a DeSoto. But my father never recovered from the Depression.
How so?
Just his passions were just such he never did get, he never did prosper again.
Mm.
But I worked with him for a while when he was in his waning time. And he was very good at what he did. A thorough lawyer, a good lawyer, but not a good businessman.
Mm. How about if we see if there's another question or two and then we'll wrap it up?
Okay,
Are you okay with that?
sure.
Oh, one of the questions is, did your mother hear Paderewski practicing the piano?
No, my mother was a great student of music, but she was not a musician. She used to sing to me, and I remember I told her once her voice sounded just like an angel. And she laughed and said, no, my voice does not sound like an angel, but she never played the piano. But we had a piano that he signed. Now it was said that Paderewski gave her that piano. I don't know whether he did or not. But I do remember, this is worth remembering. I saw Paderewski twice. Once I saw him at the Memorial Auditorium, and once I saw him at Duke Chapel, not Duke Chapel, Concert Hall, in the early 30s. So one time he came to the City Hall, City Auditorium. His private railroad car was parked at the Union Station. The Union Station was in a building right there at the corner of Martin and Dawson. Martin and Dawson, across from Nash Square. And the trains were back in there, and there was a sidetrack for private cars. And he had a private car with a piano in the car. I remember visiting him there. And he had a black man, a butler, and a cook. And I think he had another man, but they had a fireplace and a baby grand piano in there. And he was a fine looking man. And I remember this is worth recapturing because I remember it. And I was just a little fella, maybe 5 or 6, I don't know how old I was. But I remember he put his hand on his head and he said, my child, may the Lord bless you all the days of your life. And the Lord has blessed me all the days of my life. And
Robert,
who knows? Maybe that blessing was the key. Who knows? But I was blessed. Ignatian Paderewski prayed to God that he would bless me all the days of my life. And God has blessed me. And is continuing to bless me. But think about it.
Yeah.
Think about a man who was a big family, who has 6 children, 16 grandchildren, and some number of great-grandchildren.
Yeah. Well,
Robert, this is Dave Kesterson. We got to know your mom when we moved in. She
Yeah.
across the street.
Yeah.
And she told us that what she would do every year was have a big load of sand dumped in the front yard. And then
That's
she
true.
knew where you and all the other children were all the time.
Yeah. By the way, May, you should show them Jimmy Wise's work of art in there. Jimmy Wise is now a famous artist in Atlanta. He grew up in the house, the regular house. I still don't know which is your house.
She lives beside Miss Stewart's house on the corner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
we lived in the Carroll house.
yeah.
Billy Carroll,
I said-
Commander Carroll.
Do you know the tragedy of that house?
Do I know
the tragedy of that house.
yes,
Miss Webster,
a lot of them. Mr. Carroll,
well, not the sheriff. Mrs. Webster was putting up curtain rods in the kitchen.
oh, this is in our house now.
Mrs. Webster was putting up curtain rods in the kitchen on a little step ladder. Fell over, the curtain rod killed her.
Oh. And that's in our house.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
Ann
awful.
Hester was a pretty girl, and the Hesters disappeared, Webster disappeared.
Oh.
I don't know whatever happened to him.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're good.
Robert, another question,
How about one
another
more?
question.
One more.
There's another question. Did you kids play in the creek that
Oh,
runs through
yeah.
Cameron Park?
Oh, we played in the creek, all through the woods. We played cowboys and Indians. We played baseball and football at the white grounds. And we just, my father wanted the Cameron Woods set aside as a park, like Central Park in New York. But that was not to be, but it was a wonderful playground for children. And we would avoid the Brooklyn boys. They were tougher than we were. We would avoid the boys from Methodist orphanage, and we would avoid the children from Overland. But we ran as a group, smoking rapid tobacco and things like that. Other evil deeds. And James Rhodes took everybody to marbles. I never could beat anybody at marbles. I never could beat anybody at anything. That's why I wanted to run. I ran myself with pleasure.
All right. Well, Robert, thank you so much. I think we could go on forever, but I don't want to wear you down. Maybe we will have to do this again.
I want you to go and look at that, but
I will.
uh,
And I'll take a picture of it and put it on the website
well,
so people can see it.
people who understand art will understand it's a picture of, it's an artistic rendering of a chameleon.
Oh, wow.
And it takes 5 months to do it.
Hmm.
And it has depth perception, but it's not a photograph, it's a creation.
Oh, that's
and
wonderful.
Jimmy Wise, who grew up there and spent so much time on our porch in our scout suit, friends of Robert McMillan, he gets $5,000 for this thing,
Wow.
but he gave it to me within the last 6 months.
I read that your mom was the camellia lady.
Yeah. Well, she brought Khadijah to Raleigh. Nobody in Raleigh believed Khadijah was Raleigh. Hey, Miss Simpkins out in Ramcat near Yates's Farm brought Khadijah there, but my mother brought Khadijah from South Carolina to Raleigh. And we have a Khadijah in our yard. We have several Khadijahs in our yard today from South Carolina. And one that came from South Carolina that we had Bedford Avenue, we had a Pittsburgh Township, Bedford Avenue, and Hawthorne Road.
Any last words you'd like to say to us before we end?
Well, I dearly loved growing up in Cameron Park, and I dearly loved raising my family in Cameron Park. And I could go on and on and on. Someday you'll have to ask me about the soup group.
The soup group.
Yeah. Haven't studied for many years. My wife told me, don't be a hermit. So shortly after she died, I started entertaining ladies and gentlemen with big pots of soup every Sunday. And we had programs. Good soup and good programs. and I would cook the soup. One big jug of V8 juice, one big jug of tomato juice, water is needed, pound and a half of ground beef, a Vidalia onion, a peeled and diced baked potato, 4 stalks of celery, 6 small
How much sherry?
celery,
Oh, celery.
no sherry.
No sherry.
6 stalks of
Mhm.
celery, 6 or 8 little yellow squash, about 3 bags of hash cheetah frozen vegetables, put it in there, then cook, fry the beef, throw the beef in there, throw away half the juice, let it sit all night. Scrape most of the grease off, stir it in, reheat it, serve it with ice cream,
Oh,
and everybody had a good time.
that sounds wonderful. I'm glad we have your recipe. Thank you.
It's a sure, oh yeah, a tablespoon of salt and about a tablespoon and a half of sugar to counter the acidity of V8.
Yes, that makes sense. What would you eat with it?
Cornbread, but then faster they got faster. The ladies started bringing bread from the place we kind of visited, which was easier. But Jiffy mixed cornbread is good though.
It's still around. It's been around for a long time. Very good. Thank you.
Let me
Mr.
think about it.
Yeah,
I had an old friend. Well, I had a lot of friends who befriended me, Cameron Park men.
you have a lot of wonderful memories,
Oh,
don't
yeah.
you?
All of good.
You could
I
probably,
don't have a bad memory. I erase them from my mind.
that's a good way to do it. That you have good memories. Thank you so much. This has been such a treat. We may have to come back and
Yeah.
find out more about your life, Robert.
Yeah.
You've had a,
Let me just, I'll give you the name of some of my dear friends. Rhett Weathers,
yeah,
Terry Carlton,
where did they live?
the Carltons, the rich red daughters, the red girl, most pretty girls in the world. They lived up the street. Rhett Weathers lived up the street. Leon died, got killed. He lived up the street.
Hmm.
Billy Sipton lived next door. He got wounded on into a beachhead.
Hmm.
And Billy and Trent Ragland, good friends. William Neal, good friends. LaCue Brown, good friend. Freddie Summer, a good friend. Rosie Fallon, a good friend. Henrietta Ragland, a good friend.
Hmm.
James and Calvin Mitchell, a good friend. Jerry Reeves, he considered me his best friend. He was the smartest man in Bronx School when I was there. For some reason, he took a liking to me,
Hmm.
but he was brilliant.
Hmm.
And he married a girl from Costa Rica that he met. That girl from Costa Rica came to Meredith because Virginia had been to Meredith. And he was courting that girl from Costa Rica, and I was courting Virginia.
Hmm.
And I didn't know anything about, Virginia didn't know about her friend dating my friend.
Hmm.
But anyway, Vernon Jeter was a good friend.
Jocelyn's.
Oh, the Johnson, oh. Hanky Johnson got wounded on Iwo Jima. But I didn't mention the Johnson service. Miss Johnson I did. Miss Johnson's son Devereaux served. William was #1 man. William Johnson was #1 class man in his class at Columbia Law School, my teeth are coming loose, and clerked for Harlan F. Stone. No, he clerked for Hugo Black. My father was a friend of Harlan F. Stone, who later became Chief Justice.
Mhm.
William Johnson clerked for Hugo Black. William White, who's across the way, went to Wake Forest, and then he went to Harvard Law School. And Jimmy Walker down the other end of the park, he went to Duke College and went into the Marines, and then he went to Harvard Law School. We had a lot of well-educated young people grow up in Cameron Park. The Vernon Jeter became a doctor. Both Mr. and Morris became doctors. Mr. Broughton became governor. A lot of interesting people.
You have an amazing memory that you remember all these names, what they did. You've always had a remarkable memory, I bet.
Every night, I mention most of those people in my prayers.
Mm.
I mention her and all of her siblings.
Mm.
I mention you all now.
Well, thank you, Mr. McMillan. Thank you, Robert. Thank you so much. This has been such a treat. All right, we're all set.
Okay, thank you, Deb, and thank you, Mr. McMillan. It's been wonderful. We've had quite a crowd. Everyone was interested in hearing what you had to say. And I just want to ask that people give feedback on this forum. It helps us get better. It lets us know what you're interested in hearing about. So I have put the link to the feedback form in the chat. So if you'll check it there, that'd be great. And I just want to mention our next forum will be Tuesday, February 21st at 7 p.m. in person at the Y. And the topic is adaptive equipment.
All right, I will tell this one true
Sorry, Jane.
That's all right. Go ahead.
one true story. That is true because I heard it at my friend John Hinsdale Johnson, William Johnson's younger brother. He was sort of I brought him along, I'll put it that way. He was about 2 or 3 years older than I, a real good athlete. And he was wounded on Iwo Jima. And he was taken off of the island and put aboard a troop ship. And lo and behold, the officer of the day aboard that troop ship was Alfred Williams Jr., with whom he and I had attended Wilder School together.
Oh, my goodness.
And Alfred Williams was also in charge of seeing to it that Hickey, a boyhood friend,
Oh,
was rescued and removed from Iwo Jima. And Alfred was also the day that Hickey was placed back on the troop ship.
wow. That's quite a story.
Yeah.
That's quite a story. All right, Jane, back to you.
Okay, thanks, Deb. Yep. People are still interested in hearing. So thank you all again. Deb, you did a great job. Thanks for setting all this up.
When is the next program?
Thanks to May McMillan for her great help.
Hey, Benson.
And I
May
am,
McMillan Benton, I'm sorry.
Well, I enjoyed it.
and I
Wonderful.
just want to mention the next forum is February 21st at 7 at the Y. It is adaptive equipment. It's going to be presented by Sonia Clark with the North Carolina Assistive Technology Program, part of the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. And she's going to talk to us about devices that'll help us continue to live in our homes and help care for our loved ones. So we hope to see you then. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Great program.